Karma Yoga. That is action in Krishna consciousness. So we saw chapter was there. So before we go into it, we shall pay our obeisance to Sri Radha Govinda. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Nanakashalakaya Chakshurmitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano Abhishtam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuttapada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavscha Sri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vittam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadotam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakana Vittamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bandho Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschateshatarine Jayo Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So let us do just a small recap of what we had did yesterday in the chapter 4. It was all on transcendental knowledge about Krishna. So Krishna was telling us about the history of Bhagavad Gita, and when it came to the earth, we saw from the timeline in the Vedic maths, it had come at 2 million years ago, because it was first told to sun god, and he told it to Manu, his son, and Manu told it to his son Ikshava. So that's how it comes from the parampara, disciplic section. And we saw that there are 4 sampradayas: Brahma Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, Sri Sampradaya, then 4 Kumaras Sampradaya. So we saw that, and we come under the Brahma Sampradaya, down from the thing, and the Madhvacharya, Gauda Sampradaya. So that from there, the saintly kings have thing, but somehow because chain was broken, Krishna says, now I have come to tell the science again through you. So Arjuna is starting the parampara system again. There, Krishna, then he talks about how he is the goal of all paths, how he comes, when he comes, and why he comes, and all we saw. And then he says he is the goal of all paths. That means going back to Krishna's abode is where there is no cycle of birth and death. Once you go to his abode, we need not come back to this universe, to the cosmic world. So then he said he has created a system of Varnashrama. We saw that Kshatriyas, Brahmanas, then Vaishyas and Sudra, how working in those occupation, and how you can proceed in your progress in your spiritual path, because the system is there. And then again it touched upon Karma Yoga, talking to us about karma, vikarma, akarma. Akarma is the one where you don't get any reactions. Though you do the action, but there is no reaction to us. That is because we are working all in consciousness of Krishna consciousness. So here, he doesn't forbid us to execute our duties. Here, general process of material activities are not stopped. That is not the mission of what Krishna says here. The whole thing is to act everything in Krishna consciousness. So it's everybody has got some work or the other, no, whatever we have, but only the conscious. How I am engaged in this business? Am I engaged in the service of, because I have to maintain the family, I have to maintain myself, or I have to maintain the government? So many things. You are always trying to satisfy somebody else. But nobody is free from such things. All he's talking in this chapter was, whoever think we have to do it in Krishna consciousness. And how we can do is we can get the knowledge through through Tadvidi Pranipatane by approaching a bona fide spiritual master. That's how he ends that thing. And he said anyone who understands his divya, his appearance and disappearance and how he has his pastimes and about him, if you understand that, they will surely come through. He gives the assurance. He says they do come back. And many have come back because they have freed from attachment to this body, then they are not scared and they have surrendered completely to the Lord. And such Mahajans are there. So there in the purport, Prabhupada gives the names of 12 Mahajans. That is Brahma, then Shambho is the Shiva, Narada Muni, Kumaras, 4 Sanata Kumaras, then Shukadev Goswami. He is also a Mahajan who had got liberated. Then Kapila Muni, Janaka, Maharaj, Bhishma, then Prahalad, Yamaraj, and you can see Bhishma is a great Mahajan. He has come in this Mahabharat to play the part to be on the other side of Krishna. Yamaraj, then Bali Maharaj and Swayambhu Man. So these are the 12 Maharajas which has been mentioned in our purport by Prabhupada who have come. So now in all this, how to get into this Krishna consciousness? That is what the whole thing is. So here he keeps talking about controlling our senses and things. There, the what plays a mind is our how we make our habits. Just a thing. So being a slave to a bad habit or a servant to a good habit, the choice is ours. That's what he says in by Fred Van Amber. We make our habits and habit makes us. Because we have so many thoughts. Everything goes every day, right? And when you start thinking of your thoughts, slowly that comes as a mind to your words. And from the words, you will start acting on it. Then slowly it becomes your actions. And then that actions become your habit. Starts with just thinking, but finally you end up to acting on it and to finally it becomes your thing. And when you start becoming your habit, that becomes your character. You know, that's how your character forms. And then once you think, that's how you form your destiny. So it all starts from your thoughts, your thought process. If you can change your thought process, that's where you can change your destiny. So that's what the whole thing with this process we are saying. So the greatest discovery of our generation is that by changing our thoughts, we can alter our life. How we can do that is, that's what here Krishna is telling. In fact, this French philosopher says, we are not human beings on spiritual journey, but rather we are spiritual beings on a human journey, right? We are the soul and not the body, right? So we are on a human journey and not a spiritual journey. We have to go back. So how is this chapter here? Here he is talking more about Nishkama Karma Yoga. There he compares to how renouncing work, because this doubt again comes to Arjuna. Because, it's not that clear, about actions, whether how do we do it, he talks about the consciousness and all that, but still the Arjuna again raises this question in his mind. He says, Nishkama Karma Yoga, is it easier than renouncing work? Then how to perform that is what Krishna is talking about. That is by controlling our senses and mind. So he be like a lotus leaf. And then he talks about there are 3 players in this platform. Once you understand, once you come to this platform of knowledge, you can really get liberated. Then how you get liberation? By focusing on Super Soul. There is a little bit of introduction he gives to Ashtanga Yoga, but that we will be covering more in detail in next chapter, chapter 6. Okay. Then he comes and talks about the peace formula, which is very interesting and it's a very important sloka to remember. So Krishna is giving us steps leading to a life of liberation, freedom and tranquility. So this is how we are going to go step by step, right? Arjuna Vacha. So there's a confusion again. Sannyasam karmanam Krishna, punar yogam cha samsahi yashinya etyor ekam tan me bruhi sunishitam. Anyone want to read the translation? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Arjuna said, "O Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work, and then Again, you recommend work with devotion. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?
So here is talking about renouncing work, whether we have to renounce work or work with devotion. Now, Tanmi Bruhi Su Nishchitam. Tell me which of the two is beneficial to me. That's what every time he's asking, no, which is beneficial to me, which is beneficial, which is applicable to me. Is I mean, if you look at the words, the way Arjuna is asking, and what is my duty and what is beneficial to me. So why this misunderstanding comes is, if you look at devotional service is much better than mental trying to speculate in our mind, what is best and what is trying to Krishna is saying. Here in second chapter, we came to know about the soul that was described by Krishna, right? The other soul and not the thing. He started off with the Atma Tattva. Then he talked about the prescribed duties we have with our Swadharma, which we have to follow. And by doing that, but if you do those activities, you might end up with reactions. So then that is sinful reaction. So he says how you disentangle by devotional service. That is, you do for Krishna. That's what he's telling Arjuna. You fight for the Lord, not for your benefit, for your sense gratification. But again, he explains in no duty for a person in knowledge, because knowledge means understand something. When the person understands, he really knows that he is not doing any action. Actually, all the actions are for Krishna. So that sense, he has explained it as no duty. But it is little confusing for us. When you see this verse in isolation, I don't see the context in which he's talking. Then we will get confused. Then again in chapter 4, he talks about so many sacrificial work which will end up in knowledge. And then the last verse again, Krishna says, get up and fight. So now this is confusing to Arjuna, because in this text, in chapter 4, you saw, Krishna doesn't talk much. He talks only at one point, and finally he gets confused by listening to Krishna. And but once he gets a confusion, he asks. He doesn't keep quiet. Okay. So now Krishna is clearing the doubts. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Sanyasaha Karma Yogascha Nisheshakara Hubhav Tayostu Karma Sanyasat Karma Yoga Vishishyate. So Vaishnavi, you can read this.
Yes, Mataji. The personality of God had replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotion service is better than renunciation of work.
So now he is telling that what are the end result for both the renunciation of work and work in devotion is sannyas and karma yoga. They all are trying to go back to the Lord. So that is their aim is to go for liberation. But for comparing the two, devotional service is better than renunciation, because in devotional service, you will be directly thinking of the Lord and you will be engaging your senses, and the work is like a purification for you. Whereas if you just sit and renounce work and trying to just concentrate and doing all the yoga practices, it's quite risky. Sometimes you might fall down. So which is easier? He says vishishyate, which is better. It directly gives you the answer. It doesn't go back in circles. So here he clearly says devotional service is better than renunciation of work. Now the word for renunciation, we should have a proper understanding, because that keeps coming every time, renouncing of fruits of work and all that. In this connection, Rupa Goswami gives a good definition. Prapachakatya buddhya hari sambandhe vastu nao mumuknubi parityago vairagya phalagu katyati. That means when persons are eager to achieve liberation, they renounce things related to the Supreme Personality of God, thinking them to material. Their renunciation is called incomplete. What do you mean? Phalagu means here, there are certain people who think they should give up everything, material thing. They should not try to enjoy anything. Like even for eating some thing, they may not eat it individually. They'll mix up everything, the sweets, the kara and all that, so that they won't taste anything individually, and they'll mix it up and eat, because they don't want to get caught into the pleasure seeking. So they want to restrain themselves from all kinds of activities. So that is not what is meant by liberation. Here he says, no, if I can use that thing for the Lord's service, then you should not renounce it. Suppose now I have to go by flight, say, to some place. Some will think, oh, it's too luxury to go by flight. But if I have to reach some place and give some Bhashanam for the work of the Lord, I have to go there and give the thing. Then flight is not a luxury, because it's a thing you have taken the route for the Krishna service. So if you do, even if it is material, if you are using it to the Lord, then it is not renunciation. It's not palav. So it is incomplete. So if you can use those material things, like even this laptop I'm using here for taking this class. So this is not a luxury for me, but it's a necessity. So that is easy to take the class online, right? So that's what he means, that renouncing everything that is material, then because it will pull me down from the spiritual path, that is not the right way of understanding the meaning of renunciation. So here there is a story from about Nirga's fall down due to fruiting. So there was a king. This comes from Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam. No? The King Nirga was a thing in, I think it was Satyakar thing. Then he was very fond of performing sacrifices, and he wanted to do a lot of pious work. Like, he gives a lot of charity to the brahmanas, and he'll be all the time performing sacrifices, yagnas, and then after the yagnas he will give, so that he wants to gain more and more punya. But what happens one day, a mistake happens without his knowledge. Like when he has given to a brahmana or so many cows and all that, one of the cows, without it comes back to his goshala without his notice. And that brahmana who has taken those cows, he doesn't realize that one cow is missing. Only the next day he realizes one cow is missing, and he comes back. Just a minute. So what he says is that the cow comes back, and the king doesn't know, and the brahmana, the first brahmana is searching. The next day he doesn't know, and he comes back straight. Well, in the next day, what happens? The king will again has a sacrifice he has performed, and he gives the charity to a second brahmana, and this cow gets included there. So while this second brahmana is taking the cows, those two meet, and then they have a fight. They say, no, that cow was given to me yesterday, you give it back. And he says, no, this was given today to me. How can I give it? So when this is going on, to take this call. So there's a big fight, and then the king realizes that an error has taken place, and he will try to pacify them. He says, okay, in place of that one cow, I'll give you so many cows and all that. But these brahmanas won't agree. They say, what is this? You have done such a thing. And they curse him. So when he goes back to the Yamaloka after his death, the Yamaraj will ask him, which you like to enjoy, whether you want to enjoy your pious activities or complete your suffering for the papa you have done. He says, let me finish off my papa account. So then, because of this mistake, he becomes a lizard, and he will be there for a well for a very long time. So during when Krishna was there down, then some of the children would find this lizard, and they tell Krishna there's some big lizard there, and when he comes, he gives by his touch, he gets delivered. So then he narrates what has happened because of this futility of fruitive activities. And then he realizes that he was performing, it is for his own benefit. No, he wants to do charity and thing. He doesn't realize that it can become auspicious only when you're doing it for the Lord and not for yourself. So when you're in that consciousness, so finally he says, devotional service is the only auspicious activity for the soul, and it's not that you by performing this. So this is what we learn from this take from, and it is given in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 64th chapter, verses from 10 to 17. You can see this history is being given there. So finally, when Krishna is talking about karma yoga or karma sannyasa, he says, one who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, liberated from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty Arjuna. So he's telling, renounce the results and not the action. So that is very clear. So straightforward. You have to renounce the results and not the action. So you have to continue, because action is required for our purification. So here is another example of Haridas Thakur. He was a great personality. Actually, he was born in a Muslim family, but he comes into touch with this thing, Advaita Gadadhara, and he becomes very much a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Prabhu, and he will be all the time chanting Harinama, that Harinama. And in fact, he in a day he will chant 3 lakh times, the Harinama, and he's all the time in that. So, but one of the chieftain in the village, he is very envious of. He can't understand, because he says he thinks he's a chief. His background is he comes from a Muslim family, and how is he taken up into a Vaishnava's edict? He has been following this and he's doing this now. So one day he sends a prostitute to divert his attention. She comes, but he says, look, I have this sankalpa to finish this 3 lakh thing. Let me finish my japa and then I will talk to you. So she'll be waiting. By the time the sunrise will come, so she'll go away. She says, and again she comes the next evening. Then again, same thing happens. So like that for 3 days happens, but she finally, by the 3rd time, she'll also be listening to this Harinama Japa, no? By listening, she also starts chanting Harinama Mahamantra. Then she realizes what a mistake she was doing, and she asks for forgiveness. And then he says, you take up for chanting, give up all your habits. So this was a great soul who had even converted the apostate, because this is the effect you get when you get into the in touch with a real devotee. He has a taste for serving Krishna. So this is the higher taste he had. So he didn't want anything else. He was all the time immersed in this chanting of Harinama. Seeing that the devotion he had and all that, there was a transformation in this prostitute. Okay, this is how things. So now how to perform Nishkama Karma Yoga. Now Krishna says, Brahmanya Adhyaya Karmani Sangam Tyakva Karoti Ya Lipyate Na Sa Papena Padma Patram Vivambasha. So Vaishnavi, you can read this. It's very easy.
Yes, Mata. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results onto the Supreme God, is not affected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water.
So he says, renunciation is not good, you do devotional service. Now he says, who's rightly situated doesn't renounce anything which can be used for Krishna service, right? Now he says that's a kind of person who doesn't desire or hate, is free from dualities. So he's not giving up anything externally, he's giving it up everything internally. It's like, this lotus leaf. It's there on the water, but still it is not touching. No, it doesn't get wet and all that. You can see the droplets on this. So we can give two examples from the history. Prahlad Maharaj was like that. Even Dhruv Maharaj. See, Dhruv Maharaj, when he got insulted by his stepmother, she says, if you want to sit on your father's lap on the throne, you should be born on my home, and you should go and ask Narayana. So he comes running to his mother saying, I want to see Narayana and ask him for this. I want a kingdom much, much better. So, but he'll be so angry, so perturbed. The mother says, if you want to seek Narayana, you have to go to the forest because sages are there who can. So when he goes there, Narada Muni, he will be Narayana, Lord will send Narada Muni to give him directions. Actually, he tried to dissuade him. No, don't go. Now is not the time for you to do this yoga and all that, but he won't. He'll be so determined. So determined. Finally, Narada Muni gives him the instructions how to do the Ashtanga Yoga. So by doing that, he achieved. He was like this. When he did it, his son Tapas, that was the how austere he was. He was untouched by the water. So he without it. That's how he got direction. So we have these two examples. And also our Prabhupada, you can see him chanting at the thing, how undisturbed he is. You hear? So you see, he's so untouched by what is happening around, he's not getting any reaction because he's only trying to give Krishna conscious to them. So he was so immersed in this Sankirtana Yajna. That's how they all turned, they saw him and seeing him, following his example, he was so untouched. So this is how, when a pure devotee is there, then when they come into contact with such pure devotees, transformation do take place. So this is how you have to be. So that's how you can get liberated, Sir Krishna says. Now in these verses from 5.13 to 16, he's giving another concept. Who is the doer? It's $1 million question. Knowing that if you know the three doers, you can get liberated, he says. The living being, doer number one, who knows that all bodily activities are automatically carried out by the modes of material nature. And that is the doer number two. After those activities are sanctioned by the super soul, he is the doer number three. So once if he knows that, then he gets enlightenment through this knowledge. Knowledge means something you understand better. When you get understanding something, then that is the real knowledge. Okay. So here he says that if the living being understands that all his activities are carried out by the material nature, that is thing, because once after getting the sanction from the source. So there are three players in any activity. So this is what we need to keep in our mind. Like suppose, the example is here given. While we're working in the world, one can get into a mentality that I am in control of everything. So this is what generally we feel, that we are the ones who are in control. We are the ones who are doing the thing. We are the ones who are involved in it and nobody else. That's how we get into that. That's how the mentality we've been having all along. So now what do you mean by that? There are people who want to be rich. Many people want to be rich, right? And they work very, very hard. Will all of them become rich? Will all of them get what they want? It's not that, no? Only few people get it. Why it is happening like that? Okay, with some please we work very hard, no, we want to avoid problems, but still we encounter problems. They keeps coming, isn't it? So not all of them become rich. And why? How does it think? Who is the one who's sanctioning it? So this is where we get the answer. Krishna explains why. Because we might deserve many things, but we will get only what we deserve, right? So how he gives us, I mean, we might, once we desire something, he knows because he is there with us, no, within us as super soul, he knows whatever we desire is. But we have our own karma, we have our nature and all that, and he will only sanction whatever we deserve, right? And that will be given by it will be facilitated through the material nature. So the material nature it works under the direction of the Lord. So doer is the one who initiates. He initiates it because he is the co-initiator, because he wants it. He is the desiring. Then sanctioning authority is by the Krishna, right? And once he sanctions, then the material nature will facilitate. Okay, then he will get it done. But if you are not, this is how he works with the non-devotees. Because non-devotee might say, I want to commit suicide. Even then, Krishna won't come in the way. If you want to commit suicide, okay, go ahead. If you want to do some hit somebody, do something impious activities, he won't come in the way because you have some free will. No, you have to do. The choice is yours. So he is the initiator. But you will have to suffer the consequences. Whatever the actions you're doing, that consequences you will have to either enjoy or suffering, that will be there. You won't come into the way. But if devotees have surrendered to him, or who have taken his shelter, then he will give them guidance. He will give them true guidance. He won't allow them to fall down. So that is the difference, how he works with the non-devotees and with devotees. So this is, if you understand this clearly, then you will get liberated. That's what here the Krishna is saying very clearly, that for his devotees, he gives guidance. As when Dev Maharaj was so determined, he wanted to, even when he met Narada Muni, then he was determined to get the kingdom. He wanted that. So finally, Narada Muni tells him how to do the suppers. So the guidance was because of the determination. He was just a 5-year-old boy, he he doesn't care about anything. He just leaves the kingdom, goes to the forest without any fear. So then Krishna gives him the guidance through Narada Muni. And then the whole world could see the way he does the tapas. In 6 months' time, he gets the darshan of the Lord. That much of seriousness he had, So the guidance will come from the Lord to his devotees. So that's, and we saw in the chapter 4 also, to the extent we surrender, to that extent he will reciprocate with us. If you don't want to surrender to him also, it doesn't matter. He says, okay, you don't want to surrender to me, no problem. But all the consequences, the reactions of your thing, you will have to endure. So the liberation. So when this knowledge is used to focus on the super soul, then one can act in a transcendental way. So that is what is the tad buddhyas tad atmanas tad nishchas tad parayanaha gachanti apunar avrittam jnana nirdhata kalmasham. So this is the knowledge. If you can keep this in mind, that we are the three doers. So we are feeling happy or sad because of our initial, because of our decision to act, a desire. Okay, anything. So here she finally, when she turned around, then she wanted to become his devotee. That's deposited to the Harina. Then he tells her, you pray to this Tulsi plant and chant Harina throughout the day. You will slowly get purified and get liberated. So she gives away all her wealth and whatever she had, leaves her all her bad habits, and becomes a true devotee of the Lord. Okay, and the Harinam leaves the place and moves. So this was all happened, and she gets transformed. Okay, and the whole village will be surprised to see this transformation. So then, how does it help? How the person who gets this knowledge, how does he behave? So this is how so one house you think Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Astini Suni Chaiva Swapake Cha Pandita Samadashina. The humble
The
sage by
humble,
virtue of true. Okay, carry on.
the humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater.
So he sees everyone as a because he sees super soul in every living entity, whether it is a dog or elephant or a thing, he sees that. But doesn't mean that he will be just an observer. If someone comes to attack him, he can't just sit quiet and watch. Okay, that is not the way. But what we mean is he complete realization. That means he for him everyone is the same on that level. The spirit level. So how do we the process? How do we go to that state is the thing. How do we get untouched? Don't desire anything and all that. So we need to. There are a lot of regulations and disciplines. If you practice, we can reach this state of Vidya Vinaya Sampanni. Okay. ये है संप्रशद भोग दुख योनय एवते अदि अन्वत कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुद्धः.
An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them.
So the wise man who understands this science, he doesn't get involved. So why we think? Because of the senses. There are our five senses are there. No, here there's a sense because these bees, they get attracted to the light, the flies, and they get burnt. That once they go near to the light, they get burnt because their senses of eyesight was strong. And the deer is there, which the hunter usually will play some music. So that listening to the music, it gets caught. So that is its defect. Okay. And the bee, he gets smelling the scent, it gets caught into the flower. And the fish, because of its taste, tongue, it gets catched thing. Easily you can catch the tongue. And same way for the elephant, they will show a she elephant, and seeing that it will follow that and it will fall down into the pit. So because of this, their senses, each of them has their sentence. But for human being, all the senses are very strong. Yeah, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, something. So it's very easy for us to get trapped into this sense gratification. So we have to be careful. If the wise man who knows all that doesn't get into that. So finally, the Krishna gives us a peace formula. This is a very famous and a very important sloka to remember. Bhuktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhurdam Sarva Bhutanam Jnatva Mam Shanti Richati. Can read.
The sages, knowing me as the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attain peace from the pangs of material miseries.
So what are the miseries we have? We have caught into the four miseries we have now. We have birth, death, then old age and diseases. So if you want to overcome this, then we should really understand that the ultimate purpose of all sacrifices and instinct, the Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. So Supreme Lord is the enjoyer of all that because he is the proprietor and he is the controller of all the planets and demigods. He is the Loka Maheshwara. Okay. But he is a well-wisher of all living entities. Suhurdam Sarva Bhutanam. Suhurdam. He is the well-wisher. And so then if we know this, that if we know that he is the one proprietor, enjoyer of everything, he is the controller and he is the well-wisher. So if we know all that, then we can really get peace liberated from the pangs of material miseries. Here, today's world, people don't understand. They're thinking that all the countries and all it is theirs, but everything is Krishna's. They don't understand that. And they're fighting with each other, thinking they want to control over it. But there is a super personality who is controlling everything, the whole planet, all the devatas, everything. But he is also well-wisher of us. So if we understand that, then we can really get peace and get liberated from this birth. So this is the important message we get. We are not the real doer here. Who is the real doer?
Lord
Yeah.
Krishna.
Yeah. So we are, no, he is the one who creates, but we are the initiator. So because of that, we are signed. So finally, we understood what was the renunciation. We have to only renounce the results and not the action. That will be easy because it gets a purification. Because we have so many things we need to engage our senses. The Nishkama Karma will free from bondage. And we saw how to focus on Supreme Lord and the peace formula. Bhaktaram Egna Tapasam. So Krishna, now we have to understand the Lord as He wants us to, not from our own speculations. We can't just imagine God is there like this. He will give us as a sanctioning order. You give some application and He's supposed to sanction your wish and desire. It's not like that. So whatever desire, we get only what we deserve. So we learned about Nishkama Karma Yoga. We have the results and not the action. And we know the three doers. We are the initiators. And God is only sanctioning that because He knows what a desire is. And the instrumental is through material nature, we are getting things done. So these are the three doers. And we saw the pace formula. So, and also we saw how a Nitya Sannyasi is. He is detached. He is detached to the results. He is free from dualities. He does not renounce, which can be used for devotional service. In fact, once a reporter was asking Prabhupada, in Germany, I think they had a castle for a ISKCON temple. And he said, you have so many sannyasi means you should not have anything, and possess any material things. But I see a lot of vans, and then you're in a big castle and all that. So then Prabhupada says, this castle is meant for a place where the devotees can come, discuss, and do Sankirtana and worship the Lord. And it will be a place for discussing nothing. And the vans are used for distributing Harinam mantra and to distribute the books. So we are using everything for the devotional service. So it is not used for our own purpose. So that's why if it's used for the Lord, then doesn't mean that all the material thing is not a luxury. Then you live like a lotus leaf that is not touched by, then you are not touched by the reactions of karma. So this is how Nitya Sannyasi would be. And how do we reach to that level? I mean, we should be desire and karma. We have to be in our consciousness to be with Krishna. And there are 4 regulative principles which help us to attain to go on this path. No meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. We should be merciful to all, and austerity we have to perform, and be truthful and clean inside and outside. Then slowly this is the vidana, vidhi-vidana we have to practice regulative principles, and also the ABCD sadhana. If you do, then you will be slowly come into the advance our consciousness to higher level. Okay. This is what is it. Vancha kalpatu abhyascha kripa sindhove eva cha patitam nam pavanebhyo vaishnavo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Let us chant.